we're also going to take a look at some important formulas in this section. And the first one is the distance formula, which says if you are given 2 points in the coordinate plane of the form x1, y1 and x2, y2, then you can find the distance between them using this formula. It's the square root of the quantity x2 minus x1 squared, and then plus the quantity y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, well, let's take a look at what we're actually doing when we do this calculation. So let's draw a point at the origin. We'll say 0, 0, and then 3, 4. Okay, and using the distance formula, we would be able to calculate how many spaces are between these 2 points, or the length of this line segment. So I'll call it x. That's our goal. Okay, well, if you remember the Pythagorean Theorem in geometry, that it says if you have a right triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the legs. And so, in other words, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if we take this length, which is 3, and then square it, 3 squared, and then the length of this other leg of this right triangle, which is 4, and square it, that should equal x squared. And then you can solve for x. Okay, now how would we solve that? We would take the square root of both sides, and that's why we have this square root in the formula. So essentially, the distance formula is derived from the Pythagorean Theorem, and it is based on finding the lengths of sides of a right triangle and then evaluating the expression. Okay, now the midpoint formula, on the other hand, is maybe a little bit easier to understand. And what it says is to find the midpoint of a line segment. So say we're taking a look between the points 0, 0, the origin, and maybe another point 6, 2. And we want to find the middle of this line segment, the point right directly between them. And so we can see, it looks like it's at 3, 1. But another way that we can calculate this is just to average the x's. So I would average the 0 and the 6 together, so 0 plus 6, and then divided by 2 is 3. And then I would average the y's together. And so 0 plus 2 is 2, and then divide by 2, and we get 1. And so our midpoint is 3, 1. Okay, so let's use the formulas to calculate the distance between the given points and then also find the midpoint. Okay, so using the formula, d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And we can label one of these points x1, y1 and the other x2, y2. So we get the square root of x2, which I said was 4, minus x1, which is negative 2, squared, plus y2, negative 1, minus y1, which is 3, and then square that, and then simplify. Okay, to simplify this, we're going to work from the inside out. So 4 minus negative 2 is 4 plus 2, or 6, and then we square that. So 36, and then negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is positive 16, and we end up with the square root of 52. Okay, well, we will determine whether we can simplify the square root of 52 in another lesson, but you can write it as the square root of 52. That's an exact answer. You can get a decimal approximation, which is about 7.2. So that tells us there's about 7.2 spaces between the 2 points. But you could also simplify that, and we would get 2 square root of 13. And the other thing that we want to do is to find the midpoint. So we're going to average the x's, and that's -2 plus 4 divided by 2, and then average the y's, 3 plus -1 divided by 2. And simplify. So -2 plus 4 is 2. 2 over 2 is 1. And 3 plus -1 is 2. And 2 over 2 is also 1. And so the midpoint is at 1, 1. And you can verify your result graphically.